For decades, humanity has looked up at the sky with the same question: are we alone in the universe? Science believed that if we were ever to find the answer, it would be through a signal, a radio burst, a laser pulse, or a code impossible to confuse with cosmic background noise. That's how the SETI project was born, and for more than half a century it has aimed giant antennas towards space, listening for a technological whisper. Although there were moments of hope, like the famous "wow" signal of 1977, reality seemed unchanging, a silent, distant, and seemingly empty universe until everything changed. What arrived was not a signal or a fleeting pulse, but an unexpected visitor, a solid object that crossed our solar system like a messenger we never asked for but could not ignore. This object was named 3I/ATLAS, and from the very first moment it began defying all the rules. Its speed was far too high to have originated in our solar system. It traveled at interstellar velocities, meaning it came from another corner of the galaxy. And the most perplexing thing was its brightness. A comet should behave predictably, sublimating its ice as it approaches the sun and forming a visible tail, but 3I/ATLAS did not follow this pattern. In just 4 weeks, its luminosity increased fivefold, far beyond any known calculation, and alarm bells went off across the astronomical community. Astronomers began to wonder whether they were really looking at a comet or something entirely different. In all of modern history, only 3 confirmed interstellar visitors have crossed our skies. The first was 1I/Oumuamua in 2017, a cigar-shaped object moving oddly and showing no signs of a tail. Then in 2019, 2I/Borisov appeared, a classic comet but originating from another star. And now in 2025 comes 3I/ATLAS, unlike either of the previous two. Telescopes detected traces of metals forged under extreme conditions, elements that shouldn't be there. And the most unsettling fact was that despite displaying a massive tail and clear signs of outgassing, 3I/ATLAS barely deviated from its path, as if nothing could alter its trajectory. This behavior sparked a dangerous question: what if it isn't a comet? Some researchers dared to suggest that we might be looking at the remains of a destroyed planet, or even an artificial object, a possible probe sent by another civilization. And although most of the scientific community dismisses it as mere speculation, it wouldn't be the first time such an idea arises. When Oumuamua appeared, the renowned astronomer Avi Loeb proposed that it could be alien technology. His theory was criticized and questioned, but the seed of doubt had been planted. It was as if something or someone was keeping it on a perfectly straight path, ignoring the natural forces that should have pushed it off course. In that moment, it ceased to be a mere astronomical curiosity and became a cosmic enigma, a puzzle so strange that many began to consider the unthinkable. What if this isn't a natural object? What if it is the first interstellar artifact traveling under intelligent control? The first great mystery of 3I/ATLAS appeared in its light curve. Astronomers know that when a comet approaches the sun, it activates. The heat sublimates its ice, releasing dust and gas, which makes it shine brighter. But this rule has very clear limits, almost like a mathematical recipe predicting exactly how much a comet can brighten at each stage of its trajectory. Yet Atlas defied all those calculations. Between May 7th and June 3rd, 2025, its luminosity increased fivefold, a jump so disproportionate that no model could explain it. It was as if someone had flipped a cosmic switch and turned on a spotlight in the middle of the darkness. The TES Space Telescope, along with a network of ground-based observatories like ZTF and the ATLAS system in Chile, confirmed the data over and over. It wasn't an instrument error, it wasn't confusion with background stars, it wasn't a statistical fluke. The signal was too clear, too persistent, and too consistent across different observatories on multiple continents. And here arises the question that divides experts. What could cause such a dramatic increase in brightness in an object that was still far too distant from the sun to react in that way? At 6 astronomical units, water should be frozen, ice should not sublimate, and cometary activity should be almost non-existent. Yet Atlas already displayed a massive and unmistakable tail. The dust-covered area expanded dramatically in just a few weeks, growing from a few hundred square kilometers to more than 17,000. The most cautious explanation points to exotic compounds, ices that sublimate at temperatures much lower than water, releasing material earlier than expected. But even that hypothesis falters because if it were true, the activity should have pushed the comet off its orbit. And yet 3I/ATLAS continued along an almost perfect line, as if nothing could disturb it. The most unsettling aspect is that this behavior aligns with an old idea in the search for extraterrestrial life. The possibility that the clearest evidence might not come in the form of radio signals or bursts of light, but as physical artifacts, objects capable of storing information, technology, or even intent long after their creators have vanished. In recent history, we already have 2 contradictory examples: Oumuamua, which showed no coma or tail, yet deviated mysteriously from its trajectory, and Borisov, which behaved like a classic comet, following all known rules. Atlas seems the perfect paradox. It has a tail, it has activity, and yet it does not deviate. For many, this contrast makes it an even greater enigma, almost as if the universe were playing a game of opposites. First, an object that deviates without a tail, and now another that has a tail but stays perfectly on course. The inevitable question arises: are we witnessing a natural phenomenon so rare that we can barely comprehend it, or are we seeing the signature of something beyond our imagination? And if its brightness alone seemed strange, what came next left astronomers with even more questions than answers. When the spectrographs of the Very Large Telescope in Chile focused on 3I/ATLAS, the data revealed something no one expected: clean, bright spectral lines of nickel, but no trace of iron. This is absurd by cosmic standards. In our solar system, iron and nickel are inseparable twins, always appearing together, forged in the hearts of supernovas and dispersed in the building blocks of planets and comets. In fact, in the Sun itself, the ratio is clear: 18 atoms of iron for every 1 of nickel. Even in the most metal-rich comets, nickel rarely surpasses iron. Yet here, the unthinkable happened. In 3I/ATLAS, the balance was brutally skewed, with nickel abundant and iron virtually absent. The scientific team reviewed the data again and again, recalibrated instruments, compared wavelengths with laboratory standards, ruled out software errors, background noise, and detector malfunctions, and the result remained firm. It was real. Hypotheses soon followed. Some pointed to exotic processes of planetesimal formation in a stellar system very different from our own, with conditions so unusual that they might explain this disproportion. But for others, the explanation was far more unsettling. Some astronomers suggested it could be an unusual decomposition of volatile compounds, releasing nickel before iron. However, a third, far more uncomfortable idea emerged: that this spectral signature might not be natural at all, but the trace of an artificial alloy, materials processed like those used in turbines, reactors, or advanced engines, a mark of engineering in the middle of space. No scientist dared to state it aloud, but the question hung in the air: are we observing the dust of an ancient engine, worn down over millennia, still leaving its mark in the cosmos? And here lies the paradox. There are no clear signs of propulsion, no recognizable fuel remnants, no technological emissions to suggest a mechanical origin. Only that brutal imbalance between nickel and iron, an imbalance that on Earth we see only in materials created by human hands. The more cautious remind us that the universe never ceases to surprise, and that there is still stellar chemistry we don't fully understand. But for others, Atlas is much more than a curiosity. It's a wake-up call, a clue hidden within its very composition suggesting that it might not be merely a natural interstellar visitor, but something far more unsettling. The truth is, no one can give a definitive answer today about what is happening with Atlas. Maybe in a few months we'll discover that everything has a conventional explanation, or maybe, for the first time in history, we are facing a phenomenon that surpasses anything science ever dared to imagine. What is certain is that these interstellar visitors have become the great enigmas of our time. First Oumuamua, then Borisov, and now Atlas, which seems to raise even more disturbing questions. And that brings us to the end of our journey through this interstellar mystery. If this case has fascinated you as much as it has fascinated us, don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss any updates. See you in the next video, if the universe allows.